Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Well, we'll let you start the show today with whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I think there's at least two things you could touch on right away. Obviously,
okay, you're done.
Yeah, Penn State basketball. The other big one, obviously, being around the national sports world, is the passing of an icon.
Well, let's start with Mike Lange. I talked to Mike a few times during the course of my career, and just the nicest guy. Great announcer. Own style. You think about the style of the Pittsburgh announcer, Myron Cope, Bob Prince, Mike Lange. All did it in their own way, but all had a style that was unique to them, which made Pittsburgh in the broadcasting world unique. Mike always had his sayings after goals, at the end of games. And 46 years, 46 seasons with the Penguins. There was a one-year break in there early because he did one season with the Penguins, and they were in such financial straits. I don't know. I think they were talking about moving to Portland or Kansas City or something
Kansas
like
City,
that.
Yep.
Right? And he left and then came back. And he ends up doing 46 seasons. He went 30 consecutive seasons, never missed a game. He announced all 5 Stanley Cup champions. All 5. And the last 3 exclusively on radio in 9, 16, and 17. Yeah. And, Elvis has left the building. He just, a Hockey Hall of Famer. I think he won the Foster Hewitt Award in 2001, I think, back then. He's just was a gem. I mean, the Penguins were so fortunate that they had this guy as their voice in bad days, in great days. I remember when they won their first Stanley Cup and they beat the Chicago Blackhawks. And he's the guy I was happiest for. I mean, he was the guy I was happiest for because he had suffered through all those bad years when they just weren't good. And he kept delivering one great broadcast after another, regardless of what the final score was. And he just was a very, very special broadcaster. And it's a great loss for Pittsburgh. Look, Josh Getzoff has done a great job.
Outstanding. Yeah,
okay? Because at some point, somebody else has to take over.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So, at some point, somebody else has to take over. You're not going to leave the spot vacant. So Josh stepped in. Josh has been exactly what I hoped he would be, the first Josh Getzoff. You don't have to be the next Mike Lange.
Right.
Mike Lange was Mike Lange unto himself.
No question.
And, I mean, just listen to how Mike called the game, not just the sayings, just how he called the game. It's a great play-by-play announcer. And I had nothing but the highest respect for him. I always enjoyed talking with him because I felt when the conversation was over with, I learned more. Yeah. And it's a great loss. Only 76. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Far too young.
Was extremely lucky enough. Obviously, when our old station was an affiliate of the Penguins, and we used to go to Penguins and Pirates seminars and events, and was lucky enough to actually have lunch with Mike Lange, also the Steigerwalds, Josh Getzoff, up and coming, ironically enough, when he first was there. But yeah, obviously one of the great people of all time, obviously one of the great broadcasters of all time. And we're always taught, even when you're just getting into the radio industry, you're taught when you're taking a speech class, how do you want to bring somebody in? You bring them in with an intro. Well, he had about as good of an intro as anybody, saying it's a hockey night in Pittsburgh. That doesn't bring you in, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really just where that's, to me, is it just got you going, and it was a lot of fun having the chance to obviously pick his brain. There's no doubt about that. Did that with him, who's no longer with us. Did that with Stan Savern a lot, who's no longer with us either.
Well, Stan, I worked with Stan.
Yeah, Stan was
I worked
incredible.
with Stan.
Yeah, another guy that we had the chance to know over the years. That's absolutely.
Jack Ham really loved Stan. He was just really. And I told Jack, I said, when Nelson Goldberg decided I want to do something different with the pregame show, so he wanted to combine his TV and his radio to do a roundtable discussion with Joe. And I'm talking like, when I do the pregame show with James, I think the content lasts anywhere from 4.5 to maybe 6.5 minutes, 2 segments total. We sat there for 45 minutes with Joe on a Friday night here, or we'd do it at the hotel on the road. And Roger would engineer it, Roger Corey. And it was Gil Santos, John Grant, George Paterno, Stan Savern, and I. And Gil and John, I was always, especially John, but George and I already knew. The one guy I didn't know was Stan. And I knew Stan was a big-time guy from Pittsburgh, and I was kind of like, and look, I'm the young guy. Mm-hmm. Okay? You want to talk about the ultimate junior partner? That was me. All right? I'm sitting there in 1983. I'm 25 years old. Most of my experience was making sure I sat there and shut up and listened because I knew I was around smarter people than me. And you know what? And the one guy I wasn't sure about was Stan, because I just didn't know him. And you know what? He treated me like an old friend, was always asking me questions about things. I was asking him questions about things. And he just made me feel like I was an important part of what's going on, even though I was the least important person there. That's a fact. That's not, I was the least important person there. When it came time for me to ask my questions, I made sure I asked my question. And he always told me, he said, I like the question you asked. It's like, okay. But, those are the kind of people that make a difference. And Mike Lange was like that. Mike was always wanted to say something nice to you about you before he would ever sit there and talk about himself. And but 76, far too young, but a remarkable life. You're talking, this is a California guy. Mm-hmm. He's a California guy, right? He didn't grow up a hockey guy. You're sitting there, you're growing up in the 60s, what? The LA Kings and the California Golden Seals? Really?
Yeah, this was pre-Gretzky Kings. Long pre-Gretzky Kings, too.
Come on.
Pre-2-time Stanley Cup Kings.
Yeah. Smiling like a butcher's dog. Elvis has left the building.
Getting the fast lane grandma, the bingo jeepers special start.
It's like...
Yeah, he had so many.
Just on and on. And the Sports Network in Canada had a top 10 made in 2009 of his 10 best calls, which was really great. But he did TV from 76 to 2006, and man, I watched him on TV all the time. He and Steigerwald. And then I went to radio. And what always confused me about him was not him. It was the network people. I mean, he had to fight his way through contracts at times. I'm like, are you nuts?
It's crazy. Absolutely.
I mean, that's what got me. He had to fight his way through contracts at times. Why, are you people crazy? Okay, the person negotiating the contract, nobody knows who you are. People know who he is. I say, come on.
Nobody knows who you are, and you obviously don't know the business because when you get a gem like that, you do everything you can to hold on to them as long as you possibly can.
I mean, you got this slice of gold on the air for you that walks down the street and everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you sit there and you think about it. Jack Fleming had his own way. Bill Hillgrove had had and continues to have his own way. All right. Rob King's done a terrific job. First full year with the Steelers. Josh Getzoff does a great job. I think Greg Brown does a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lange Fratteri thought the world of Lange. Yeah. John Sanders, of course. John and I are good friends to this day. Mm-hmm. But it's a city that had. I never heard Rosie Rosewell. Never did.
No, I never did either.
Never heard Rosie Rosewell. Only heard of him. Never heard of him. Bob Prince, who couldn't have treated me any nicer. Again, I'm young. I'm like, right? This is a legend. I'm trying to find my way. And Bob Prince couldn't have treated me any nicer. And Mike Lange, same way. And there's Myron Cope. The interesting part about Myron Cope is that he was exactly the same off the air as he was on.
He was.
I mean, it's the same. Right?
He'd swear. Oh, man, would he ever swear?
Well, but that's not unique to you.
No,
there are a lot of people who see you and start to swear. I mean, okay, just so you know.
I'll never forget on the air. They were trying to get Fakir Brown's name. Unfortunately, dropped the Phil Hillgrove said just call him the Faker, and he unfortunately replaced the A with a U, and you know what word obviously came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
That's when Tun Chilkin stepped in and said just call him Brown.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That was entertaining. Yeah, obviously, I first broke into radio. One of the jobs I had was board hopping Steelers games, and that was entertainment sometimes when I would listen to the three of them.
Now, look, Philadelphia fans.
Oh, they've been
Philadelphia fans.
Absolutely.
Between Merrill, who I can't say enough great things about Merrill, and Harry Callis.
Harry and Whitey both. Yep.
And Whitey, right? I never heard by Sam.
No.
Bill Campbell, of course, I worked with.
Yeah.
Tommy McCarthy currently was just Tommy and I go back 35, almost 40 years. Tommy and I go back. Scott Fransky, who's
Fransky on radio,
great.
Absolutely. Fransky and obviously Larry with him.
Fransky's great.
Yeah.
He in L.A. I never met Gene Hart.
No, I never.
But but in Philadelphia,
Tom McGinnis with the Sixers.
Tom McGinnis, I've met Tom a couple times, and Tom does a great job.
Zoomoff as well with the Sixers.
Zoomoff and I we're friends, and I think I have nothing but the highest regard for Mark. He's incredible,
sensational.
But it's interesting. The style in Philadelphia is different than. Again, Bob Prince was different than anybody else in the game.
Sure.
Okay? Myron Cope was different than anybody else in the game. And Mike Lange was different than anybody else in the game. All in the same city. Now, over time, you can't duplicate what they do.
No.
Okay? Like, for example, Larry Munson, who did Georgia for so long in his career. You know, the hobnail boot and all that stuff, right? And it was always we and us, we, us, them, whatever. Well, see, their current guys call it the same way. And it's no offense, but it's that's Larry Munson's thing. Just because he did it that way.
Yeah.
You got to do it your own way. Well, Mike did it his own way. And you know what? That's why I really give Josh a lot of credit. Josh does the game his own way.
Sure.
Hey, you don't have to be the next Mike Lange. You just have to be the first Josh gets off, which he does. And that's, the state's been lucky with the people that have had play-by-play. And, of course, we can't leave out our legendary Fran Fisher, who was
Fran. You guys succeeded in him too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, Fran.
He was well. Absolutely.
Fran's special beyond words. Can't leave Fran out because Fran had his own special way and special magic.
Certainly did.
On Penn State football and basketball broadcasts, for such a long time. So, I mean, this state's been fortunate. They've had some great play-by-play announcers along the way. And, of course, losing Mike Lange today at the age of 76. Very, very tough because he is, without question, one of the best the sport has ever had. So, basketball last night, and a terrific win for Penn State, winning by 19 points. And that's,
almost the frustrating part to an extent.
Well,
a little bit.
Yeah, because
yes,
that's how they're capable of playing.
Exactly.
You kind of feel like that's the first time they've really played like that since the win against Purdue December 5th.
Look at that first half. It just
right.
You look around and say, "Where was this?" Absolutely.
Nebraska had been playing great basketball. They had slumped, but then they had bounced back and won 5 of their last 6. And in winning 5 of the last 6, they were only averaging like 8 or 9 turnovers a game. Penn State turned them over 10 times in the first half. I mean, the game was 12-2, and Nebraska still hadn't put the ball in the basket yet. The 2 was on a goaltending that they had to review. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you lead stem to stern. I talked yesterday about the middle 8. Well, in the middle 8, they entered the middle 8 up 20. And I said on the broadcast, it's like, you got to make 20-25. Well, they got it to 23 at halftime. That's exactly what you want in the first 4-minute segment. They got it to 26. That's what you want in the next segment. So that part they cleaned up. And I made the comment on the broadcast 5 minutes ago. I said, you know what? I said, you want to know what the cure is to winning close games? Don't be in them. Blow them out. Six guys in double figures. On Monday, I knew that Nick was going to come off the bench. I could see it in practice, and that Freddie DeLeon was going to start. And I liked it. You don't know if it's going to work, but I liked it for this reason. I felt in that role, Nick Kern had really excelled during the season. And yes, he's had some really good moments as a starter. But after a while, he's been logging 34, 35 minutes a game in the starting role. Well, last night he came off the bench. He was back to about 24, 25 minutes, and that's where he's most effective. And I thought he passed the ball beautifully. I think he had 7 assists last night. Ace had 8. And it just seemed like that energy off the bench as the 6th man made a big difference for him, and it made a big difference for the team. DeMarco Dunn played another terrific game. 7 of 9 shooting. 3 of 5 in threes. That's what you need. Yannick, it's the best game he's played since he's come back from his injury. Since the start of the USC game, because I thought against USC, I thought Ace Baldwin played very, very well. You're not going to look at the box score and say, well, what are you talking about? I'm talking about like sitting courtside watching him. You felt like you were seeing the guy I saw in the summertime. He just seemed to be freer, moving better. And last night, you just saw he had 6 steals again last night. I will say this, in watching Bryce Williams of Nebraska, that is a beautiful basketball player to watch. Understated, doesn't force anything, doesn't talk, makes plays, right? If he doesn't have a good shot, he passes it up. If he has a good shot, he takes it. I think he had 17 last night in a very understated performance. But even when he scores in the 20s, he always is understated as to how he plays. He just is a wonderful player to watch. Obviously, saw him last year. But, again, you see him in person again this year. And I watched enough video of Nebraska coming into the game to understand what they didn't do. And you watch the video, and you're like, man, he is just even better than last year. Well, but then you see him in person, just how smooth he is, just a good player. But it was Penn State's night. It was Penn State's night. Yannick did his deal. Nick, DeMarco Dunn, Freddie DeLeon had a good night. He may not be shooting the 3, but he's getting the drives, the 2s. He made some good decisions last night. Ace Baldwin played really well last night. Kachi came off the bench, gave him some valuable minutes when Yannick Niederhauser got 2 fouls. Freshman usage. Okay? Javin Carter, Dominic Stewart, and Miles Goodman all got in for short stints in the first half, which meant Penn State was a fresher team in the second half. I'm sorry, I'm not a person that is big on, play the young guys, it's the future. I'm big on winning that night. Sorry. Whatever it takes to win on that night.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
All right. Okay. And so what's the best personnel I have to win on that night? This is not 2005 basketball. Okay? The rules that apply to 2005, the rules that apply to 2015 do not apply to 2025. Okay? If you have young players that are capable of stepping in and really giving you significant contributions to help you win the game, you play them. Okay? On a given night, they can do. I feel like Dom Stewart stepped in it. I played pretty well against USC, really well. Right? Miles Goodman's had some good moments along the way, but he's missed so much time this year. I mean, he's trying to learn on the go during the course of the season. He didn't, and hasn't been in the weight room, except once. Even then it's been somewhat limited. But no offense, I'm not into this. Well, I want to, for the future. For the future, what? Win tonight. Okay?
Best thing you do for the future is win games and establish confidence going into that.
Just win tonight's game. Okay? I'm not out here doing an experiment. No. This is not about an experiment.
No.
I mean, that's not how sports is today, and that's not how teams are constructed.
Especially not
this
how
way.
college sports is today.
Now look at this conference right now.
Yeah.
Okay? Who are the freshmen that are really playing? Ace Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Dylan Harper.
Yeah.
Queen down at Maryland, who's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Mobley at Ohio State. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else you want to nominate to tell me about? I mean, I've seen everybody. I mean, who? Because guess what? College basketball is now older.
Mm-hmm.
across the board. People are staying longer. It's older. Okay?
Absolutely.
Now, in the end, might that hurt the younger player coming into the game? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. We're going to have to find out. But Penn State does have a recruiting class coming in that Mike really likes. And he had more time to evaluate this recruiting class, okay, as to what they want to do. And Caden Mingo was there last night at the game. He was throwing out T-shirts during a timeout. There will be younger players that will get in. But once you get going in the season, your job is to win that night. Okay? Your job is not to sit there and do an experiment. Hey, sometimes you're forced to play younger players, okay? Penn State thinks, for example, in football, DeJuan Lane's going to be a good player, but he had to play earlier than his timetable because of the KJ Winston injury. Sometimes you have to do that because it is dictated that you have to do that. But your job is to win that game on that night. Okay? And if that's what you need to do, that means playing, okay? Mike last night played the best players on the court to win the game. Right? Okay? This is not an experiment.
No.
Right? And as somebody who's at a lot of practices, he played the right guys last night.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I hate to use the Herman Edwards phrase, but it's the truth. You play to win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's literally...
It's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean Dom's not going to be a good player. It doesn't mean Javin's not going to be a good player, or Miles or whatever. But last night on that particular night, okay, that was the group you needed to win the game. I didn't even think twice about the substitution pattern. I mean, like I said, I'm at practices. I know who's doing what, why, who's getting it, who's not getting it. I mean, and now would Mike idealistically maybe like to get a few more minutes for people along the way? Sure. But in the moment, you're making decisions in the moment of, well, now might be a good time to try this. No. Now might be a good time to put this group in to win the game. Now, they got the big lead. They got up to as high as 26. Okay.
Held off a team that was a solid second-half team in these last couple of games, too.
Yes, and remember, they had been down 21 against Northwestern, rallied back and beat them. Yeah. Okay? The closest Nebraska got last night was 16. Yeah. It was the closest they got. They're now about to face a team in Minnesota that is 3-1 in its last 4 games. Interesting. That's really good. You know what's strange about that? When you look at the stats of teams, because I have a lot of different stats just in case I need it on my chart. Like last night, Nebraska was only giving up 48.6% 2-point shots, which is a really good 2-point defense. And Penn State was 18-22 in layups. Penn State shredded them last night. So like that kind of stats on there. But it's the weird one's the halftime stat. When teams are ahead at halftime, they have great records. I mean, Penn State, I'll give you Penn State's 13-2 in leading at halftime. Well, almost everybody's like that. Not Minnesota. Minnesota has been behind in each of the last 4 games at halftime and won them. Behind at USC, behind at UCLA, behind against Illinois, lost, and behind at Penn State. What? And rallied for all of them. They have 14 wins, and they have actually more wins when they're behind at halftime than they do when they're in front. They have 6 wins when leading at halftime, 1 win when tied, 7 when behind. And I'm talking, when I mean they're behind at halftime, They're not scoring any points. They're only averaging 30 points per first half. But boy, they've had some good second halves. And they only played 7 guys the other night at UCLA. That was it. They played 7 guys. And one of them only played 7 minutes. And then when they played and beat USC, they played 8 guys, and the 8th was Rigsby, and he played 1 minute. So they're become a 7-man team. So, and hey, let's give Ben Johnson a lot of credit. He's done a good job with that. A lot of people didn't think he had much. And you know what? He's done a good job with his group. Dawson Garcia is a heck of a player. Garcia had slumped a couple of games. And then he popped up and had 32 against UCLA. So that's the game Saturday at 1. Or Saturday at 2. It's 1 o'clock there. Saturday at 2, we're on beginning at 1:30. And it is Thon weekend. And whatever you can do to help out with Thon. And I think that whatever anybody can do, I mean, it'd be wonderful. He could crack $15 million. 4 Diamonds Fund, it all goes to
Absolutely.
helping out Thon families. The Thon game on Saturday with Washington, they asked me to interview a Thon family on the phone, and they were remarkable. Daisy has been making great progress. She's 15 now. She's not out of the woods yet. She hasn't been able to ring the bell yet. But she's told me, she says, I'm feeling a lot better. I said, okay. And they've been through a lot. And it's, Jack Ham and I, they always bring a Thon family in to meet us before a game. And so we get a chance to talk to them. We get a chance, they want pictures, which is great. And just to find out, like, how's he or she doing? And I always ask the parents, how are you doing? Like, how are you, because they're the ones that have to drive to every appointment. They're the ones that have to sit through the treatments. They're the ones that have to agonize waiting to hear from the doctors about what they see, what they don't see. I mean, it's agony for them, being the caretaker. It's agony. So I always try to ask all the time, how are you doing? Right? It's one thing to ask about how the patient's doing. Everybody asks that question. But I'm always asking them how they're doing. Because they go through so much. And so Thon is this weekend. It's for the kids. Largest student-run philanthropy in the world, and whatever you can do to donate to that would be great. The Big Ten meetings yesterday, is there any particular reason why half our staff's in Nashville? I mean, does anybody here know how to do their job instinctively? They got to go to a meeting? I'm just asking. What are you learning down there?
Well, you got the seminar. You have surprise appearances from a lot of people. So I think you learn from some of them.
Just do the job. What the heck?
Trying to get away from us. I think that was one of the big. That I think was literally on the itinerary. Get away from everybody in the building. Whoa! Everybody bolted quick.
Jeez. All right. Well, if you think a seminar is going to make you better, it's up to you. All right. Great. Scary. Very scary. Just an opinion. The meeting in New Orleans, the announcement made yesterday was exactly what I thought they were going to say. That they want to see changes to the seeding of the college football playoff. Now you're saying, well, that's the consensus you came to? No. They know the meeting is next week. They know that the only thing they can change for this year is that. Because the rules this year state that you have to have all 10 conference commissioners and Pete Bavacqua, the athletic director at Notre Dame, approve it. So they know that's the one thing that everybody's going to agree on, to go 1 through 12 instead of having automatic bids and the first 4 seeds to the 4 highest-ranked conference champions. So naturally, that's the only announcement they're going to make. Do you think that's what they talked about in there? Of course not. They started talking about what they would like to do
at some point
in 2026 when they have more of the power to do it.
Sure.
And the ability to do it. You're not going to come out and announce that, that now. You may not have a consensus now, or it's not the right order to do it. You're not going to walk out there and go, hey, we think we had to get 4 automatic bids each, and that's what we're going to propose in a year. No. Okay? You're going to go to that meeting. You're going to play ball. You're going to get the seating thing changed for 25 because they can't implement any of the changes they would like to see in terms of automatic qualifiers and how many schools are in it until after they get the 25 part straight with that meeting. Because then the rules of engagement change after this meeting in Dallas. Because starting in 26, the Big Ten and the SEC have more power to do things in terms of getting through 4 automatic qualifiers for each conference, because they're going to each be getting 29% of the cut. So 58% of the money is going to go to the Big Ten or the SEC. Yeah. So you don't think they sat there and talked about it? Plus, they did have lawyers there to make sure that when they talked about the House settlement, they weren't like lapsing into collusion at all. They did talk about it. But the fact that it has not been ratified yet by Judge Claudia Wilken, and the earliest that would happen would be April 7th. So they're not going to talk about that. So they made exactly the announcement I thought they were going to make. In other words, the one that they could safely make, and in order of a step at a time. Okay? As a step at a time, that's the one they can make, and they made it yesterday. And that was what they did. Pretty simple. People are saying, in other words, they all went there, and then that's all they came up with. Do you think that's the only thing they talked about yesterday in that room?
It's literally like when a organization or sport is going on strike. Yeah, they met 6 hours yesterday. They didn't talk about the strike. Of course they talked about the strike. They're not going to tell you they did.
Right.
That's...
Yeah. Yeah. It's, believe me, they talked about a lot of items. And it's good to get them all in a room to do something like that. Now, there are going to be people that are not happy with what they're thinking about doing. And I'll be talking with Dennis Dodd later today about, he's one of the guys who doesn't like the idea that they would want 4 automatic bids. Michael Wilbon's made it obvious he doesn't like it either. Thinks it's a power play. I think what the Big Ten and the Big Ten and the SEC have this going for them. I've said this many times, but I'll repeat it again. There are 18 schools that make up 50% of the television ratings, right? And this is now a 9-year sample size. So this is a 9-season sample size, 2016 to 2024, 9 seasons, okay? And that's 8 years. It's 9 seasons. Okay? Yeah. All right. They make up 50%. Well, 8 of them are in the SEC. 7 are in the Big Ten. The other 2 are Clemson and Florida State from the ACC, and the final one is Notre Dame. Those 18 make up 50% of the TV ratings. Okay? And naturally, they're going to sit there and go, excuse me, we're carrying the load here. You've had Big Ten champions. You've had SEC champions. You've had no Big 12 champions. And Clemson has been able to win it for the ACC. I mean, it's not regionalizing the sport, especially when the Big Ten is coast to coast.
Yep.
I mean, the Big Ten's in Seattle, it's in Portland, it's in Los Angeles, right? So if you have a Big Ten school, or, if you have, in this case, 2 Big Ten schools playing in the Final Four, Penn State and Ohio State, yeah, they may be East and Midwest, but your conference extends to the coast. The SEC takes up the entire South and into the Southwest with Texas and obviously up to Oklahoma and Missouri. So they're in the Midwest now with Missouri, Oklahoma, Southwest with Texas, entire Southeast. I mean, those are the population centers of the country.
Sure.
Right? I mean, really what's not covered is a lot of the area where the Big 12 is right now. Utah, Colorado, Arizona State. Arizona State gave a great account of itself in its game in the Peach Bowl against Texas. They played great. They went to overtime in that game. But they're the power players in all this. They're the drivers in all this. They're the ones that are getting the TV ratings in all this. Now, they've got to figure out what they want to do with it eventually. If you go to 16, that means everybody's playing in the opening weekend. Well, how do you schedule it? And what roadblocks do you find because of the NFL? Why did Penn State play the Orange Bowl on a Thursday night?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the NFL playoffs.
Yep. Saturday.
All right. Why did Ohio State have to play Texas on a Friday night?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the NFL playoffs. Now, is it possible to work around that? It is possible to work around that because if you notice how the NFL is scheduling its playoffs, they're not starting until 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yep.
So can you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you can.
Do a noon game.
Okay. The roadblock you're running into is what happened on the 21st. Notre Dame played Indiana on the 20th on a Friday night all by itself. But Penn State's playing at noon with SMU. And they're going head-to-head with Houston and Kansas City. That game started at 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the Steelers were playing against the Ravens at 4:30. So Penn State didn't have to go head-to-head with the Steelers. Texas did not have to go head-to-head with the Texans. But you still had to go head-to-head with the NFL.
Absolutely.
And you have to have. But again, there's nobody in charge.
Right.
Who are you going to send to go to talk to Roger Goodell? Hey, can we talk to you about this for a minute? We just hear us out.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what we'd like to do.
And as arrogant as the NFL is, they're not changing anything in that spot.
But at least go talk. The problem is there's nobody to go talk to them.
No.
Like people talk about college football and college basketball need commissioners. Well, they do. You need to have somebody to go talk to somebody else. There is no person. What's happening right now with Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, there is no centralized leadership out there. So because there is this vacuum, these two are filling the void in the vacuum.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else stepping up to lead.
No, and that's... And
Charlie Baker's not leading anything.
No. And people chuckle when James Franklin said Nick Saban. That guy is perfect for that spot.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Absolutely perfect.
All right. James is right about that. You know, it's like I think Mike Krzyzewski would be great for basketball.
Yeah.
All right. It's in other words, you should go talk to the NFL. Who?
Yeah. Who? Exactly.
Which person's going to go?
Part of it. Yeah.
Right. Charlie Baker's going to go tell him how to pass a bill? I don't know. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. The NCAA doesn't have sway over college football.
Nope.
But you don't have anybody that's going to go and talk to them. There's nobody there to do it.
No.
Why? So why does this meeting take place? This meeting takes place between the Big Ten and the SEC because guess what? They know who the power brokers are in this whole thing. And somebody's going to fill the vacuum of leadership to make something happen.
Yeah.
Now, does it mean that does it mean everything they're doing is a great idea? Does it mean everything they're doing is right or best for the game? Those are things that can be debated. Okay? You can debate that.
Yeah, but you look at the ratings that day, obviously, it was clear. Yeah, the NFL obviously had an impact. Yeah, there's no question. The ratings were great, but they could have been a lot better.
Yeah. They certainly could have been.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you look at the primetime rating of Ohio State, Tennessee, and the previous night primetime rating of Notre Dame and Indiana. That tells you a lot.
Absolutely.
Right? They did not have direct NFL competition for either one of those games. It made a big difference. Right? Made a big difference. So, I don't know.
And the thing I don't want to hear is, well, that's why you don't play at noon now. Big Noon has gotten extreme ratings for a lot of their bigger games. So that is absolutely, I know people have their opinions on Big Noon. I get it either way, but that is absolutely not the case with this. Ratings can draw at noon.
They've got the numbers to show it.
Absolutely. It's the second highest rated game of this. Well, two of the highest rated games all year.
I mean, that's just. The ratings tell a different story compared to the complaints.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tonight, Canada, Team USA, TD Garden. It's for the Four Nations Cup. What I consider to be a gimmick.
It's been fun.
I've been wrong about.
I have enjoyed it. Absolutely, and been enjoying it.
I've been watching it.
It is better than any all-star game I have seen in 10 years.
Because these people are playing. It's not an all-star game. These people are out there playing hard. They're playing for their country.
Absolutely.
They're playing for their country.
Yeah.
Now, the defenseman for the Bruins, he's out tonight. And then they try to get Quinn Hughes to come in, and Quinn Hughes won't be able to play, I guess. He's not ready to play. So they're going to have to come up with something a little bit different defensively tonight in terms of getting the right people on board. It sounds like the Tkachuks will be able to play. Brady and Matthew Tkachuk will both be able to play. So that's a plus for the United States tonight. I know a lot of people have been praising Jacob Slavin from Carolina. He's been great. Let's see. Owners get okay to transform United Center area. Let's see. Quinn Hughes won't join U.S. Okay, Okay, Charlie McAvoy still in the hospital. Status uncertain. He's still in the hospital. He's in Mass General with an infection to his right shoulder and a significant injury to his AC joint. All right. I guess his status is uncertain for when the Bruins restart Saturday.
Okay. I was guess. My Lord. Now, that's literally like when I've seen reporters speculate whether somebody's going to play, and I see the guy in street clothes 5 minutes before the game. I'm thinking, the speculation's over. He's not playing.
Yeah. So Brett Peace, let's see, is injury insurance. Tage Thompson from the Sabres injury insurance, and that's what they're going to do. Tournament rules state if a team loses 2 players at forward or on defense to injury or illness, they can bring a non-roster player as an emergency injury replacement, which with Cale Makar out, they brought Thomas Harley in when Shea Theodore and Cale Makar both got hurt. Now, I don't know if Makar is playing tonight or not. Mike Sullivan, Quinn Hughes is coming when asked about another defenseman. His brother Jack, of course, is already on the team. It doesn't really say how they're going to do this tonight. Quinn Hughes won't join U.S. for Four Nations Cup. As an injury replacement option, his agent confirmed. Okay. He'd help. He'd help. Then Matthew Tkachuk and Brandon Hagel traded punches on Saturday night. Now they're trading barbs. Yeah, they're chirping back and forth. It was fun the other night, and I'm not just talking about I'm not talking about that. You only enjoyed the 9 seconds. I watched the other. I watched the other 59 minutes and 51 seconds. I thought it was intense competition in hockey. No, all you watched were the fights.
Wow.
That's all you cared about.
No.
You came into the station. You thought Tkachuk had a good left hand. Well, I mean, what's wrong with you?
He did.
It's like you're so. I mean, there are moments you're so barbaric.
It feels a lot like when U.S. played Canada in the gold medal game where Crosby obviously ended up scoring the game winner. It feels a lot like that tonight. I think there's, the get-in price is like $1,100. I mean, there's a lot of hype to this, and obviously it's a sensational idea, and it's obviously paying off.
So let's get to brass tacks. I think Binnington has been good in net for Team Canada. He has not been great. He's given up a couple of soft goals, but he's been good.
Sure.
I think Connor Hellebuck has been outstanding for the United States.
Yeah.
In the 2 games he's played, he's given up 2 goals. Right? He's played like the Vezina Trophy winner. And he's played like the best goalie in the world. They're going to need that kind of performance tonight.
Absolutely.
It's not as if the United States has been tilting the ice. I mean, and Hellebuck is, to me, the key to the whole thing tonight. Getting to the lead helps. I know Kreider scored early the other night, and they still lost to, Sweden 2-1 or whatever it was, right? And, but yeah. So that is tonight. Because my understanding was after the fight, you turn the TV off.
No.
It's all you care about.
No.
You told me you thought Brady Tkachuk, should have uppercut more. Right? I was out there trying to talk about hockey. Yeah, what did you think of the forechecking? I don't know. I didn't see the game. So I saw the fights. Were you alive when the Flyers played the Soviet Union?
No, I heard about it.
So the Soviets come over here and they play this series and they're beating NHL teams, and the Flyers are the defending Stanley Cup champions. So the last game of the series is the Flyers are going to play them at the old Spectrum. Well, the Flyers, of course, the Broad Street Bullies, Dave Schultz, Bob Battleship Kelly, the whole group, right?
Sure. Or, yeah.
No, I'm talking about the guys that fight.
Viciously fought. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hammer Dave. Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm not talking. I'm not
talking about the class act that was missing the T.
Right. Well, no. Wow. In the Soviet Union, Bobby Clark is considered to be a villain.
Yeah.
Because he slashed the ankles of Kharlamov. All right. In the Summit Series, when the Team Canada came back, well, the Flyers are playing them. And the Flyers beat the living daylights out of them. I mean, they checked them, they hit them, they belted them, the whole thing, right? Well, the Soviets go to the locker room at the end of the first period. So it's the first intermission. They're not coming back out. You want to know how they got them back out? Remember, this is the Soviet Union.
Uh-huh.
You want to know how they got them back out? Capitalism. They told them, you don't come back out, you are not getting the money. It's amazing out of nowhere. They found a sense of national pride.
Mm-hmm. No, of course they did.
Because of Washington's, Lincoln's, Jackson's, Grant's, and Franklin's. That's how they got them back out. They went in there and said, you don't play, you don't get the money. Suddenly out of nowhere, they found a little giddy-up, went out there.
Oh, yeah.
And the Flyers just kept coming at them. Over and over and over again. Flyers haven't done that since, but on that day, they were America's team. So there you go.
And I've seen them lose 3 cups since.
Well, yeah.
Still don't know how that ball, jeez. I still don't know how the puck got in the net for Patrick Kane, but it did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, all right. Guess tomorrow. And, yeah. And then I'm going to go to Minnesota and, yeah. Flyers Red Army game. Flyers won it 4-1. 17,007 at the Spectrum. Ed Van Imp. Okay, defenseman. Okay. Hit Karlamov, who was prone on the ice for a minute. Officials did not call a penalty. Konstantin Loktev, Red Army coach, pulled his team off the ice. Ed Snyder told CSKA to return to the ice and finish the game, which was being broadcast to an international audience, or the Soviet Hockey Federation would not get paid. A goodwill get-together before the game was fraught with tension. Flyers announcer Gene Hart, who spoke Russian, taught Flyers owner Ed Snyder to say a phrase in Russian wishing the best of luck to both teams. When the time came, there was no mingling whatsoever between the Soviet contingent and the Flyers staff and players. When Snyder took to the podium, he spoke tersely and omitted the phrase that Hart had taught him. Snyder said later, when I looked at those cold faces, I couldn't do it. Bobby Clark later said that he, too, really hated those SOBs on the Soviet side and could not wait to take the ice against them once again. The Flyers dictated the tempo. No kidding. Dictated the tempo. Right? As soon as the Soviets got back on the ice, the Flyers scored again. Right? One key contribution to the Flyers' win was a technical decision made by Fred Shiro to stand up the Red Army attack at the Flyers' defensive blue line. It was really a great tactic, by the way, because they were always trying to work that short, crisp passing game in center ice. Forget that. That was gone. All right. Took them off guard. No other NHL team had tried to do that. They outshot the Red Army 49-13. After the game, Fred Shiro joked that Joe Watson, that he had set the Soviet hockey program back 25 years by scoring a shorthanded goal on Tretiak. That's probably true. little more than a decade after the showdown, the Soviet Union was crumbling politically. In order to raise funds, the Soviet hockey program started to negotiate to auction off their prominent national team veterans to the NHL. Fetisov was the first one. Remember he went to the Devils?
The Devils, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. These are your people. Unhappy. Just mad. These are your people. You were rooting for the Red Army team.
No.
What's wrong with you? You wear that red shirt in.
That's
I'm telling you, deep down, deep down, I'm concerned. There you go. It says here the games like subsequent Canada Cup tournaments, which also began in '76. That's the one where Bobby Orr was the MVP.
Yeah.
Right. Were not treated like exhibitions. See, that's what tonight. It is not an exhibition.
No. Heck no. Heck no.
Drop the puck. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Right? Look, there might not be a fight tonight. I'm just warning you.
That's all right.
Well, no,
I'll be watching.
Okay. When they started playing hockey, you turned it off. Like, you hung on for another extra minute or two thinking they might drop the gloves again. I mean, I know how you operate. It's all about the fisticuffs. Drop the gloves. Let's go. If you could fight Wayne Gretzky, you would. He wouldn't fight you.
Not the great one. No way.
You know who could fight? Bobby Orr could fight.
Huh?
So the Rangers decided they'd had enough of him skating up and down the ice, and then because Orr was like a blur out there. So they're going to get physical with him, and they sent out Brad Park, right? And Orr took him apart.
Nice.
Like took him apart, and that's the last time anybody went and sent somebody. They're like, I don't think we need to fight Orr.
Nice.
Right. I mean, your kind of guy.
That's right.
Right? I mean,
that's right.
Okay? Derek Sanderson, Terry O'Reilly, right? Bob Battleship Kelly,
yeah.
right? Dave the Hammer Schultz. You wear your Dave Schultz shirt and everything because to you, that is old-time hockey. Ernie Shore, the Carlson brothers, the Hansons, that's who you're for. That's what you want. You want the Hansons to come out and drop the puck tonight. Hockey's a beautiful game, you know. Fast, passing.
That's right.
Right? And all you want to see is, they dropped the gloves. It's great. I had to tell you who won the game the next day. To you, it was 3-0. I said, no, it was 3-1. I said, how'd you get 3-0? No, they gave up a goal. He goes, no, it was 3-0. I said, what are you talking about? He says, the fights, the U.S. won all three. I'm like, oh, no, this is all you care about. This is you. Come on. You wanted Pete Rose to hit Ray Fosse. I know how you do. I know how you operate. That's the way you are. Kevin McHale and Kurt Rambis. Okay, you've got it on your VCR.
Larry Bird, Dr. J.
You got your VCR back and forth because you use old technology.